Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to DLPeck Fishing. In this video, we're gonna talk about this. How did this happen? Let's get into it. All right, y'all. I really wasn't expecting to be making a video about this, but here we go again. A couple weeks ago, I was on Lake Tyler and my TargetLock for my MEGALIVE 2 snapped again. That's right, again. And I really hadn't spent time on this platform, on my platform, to discuss this with you guys. And this is not the first time it has happened to me. In fact, it's not the second time. So before we begin, I want to make sure you guys understand that this is not a Humminbird bashing video. Okay, you guys already know, if you follow my channel, I run the One Boat Network system. You know, I believe in the Humminbird products. That's what I use, that's what I like, okay? But there are some issues that I want to discuss with this particular setup so I can help you guys out in case you're running those TargetLocks out there. And this is also not a video for you to drop in the comments, you should have got a live scope system. All right, so y'all make sure y'all be easy on me out there. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so let's start with what happened on Lake Tyler, okay? The conditions were pretty normal. They were ideal. I mean, we had a little bit of chop, but nothing too bad. There was no white caps. There was no debris. There was nothing. I mean, it was just, it was a nice day. And this was a practice day. I just dropped the boat in to go cruise the lake for an hour or two and run through some spots. So I happen to look over and I see my MEGALIVE is dangling, just hanging off the boat, hanging off the front, whatever. And instantly I knew that it was gonna be a long weekend. I mean, I know how to fish without my MEGALIVE, but it was just disappointing to know that I was gonna have to take this thing off and spend some time doing that evening. To be honest, that part was on me because I knew I should have had a backup. And this is like the second occurrence of this, actually the third, but one was actually my fault. We'll get into that. But with this being a second occurrence of this thing breaking on its own, I said earlier in the year that I was gonna have a backup solution, and I didn't have that in place. And that is exactly what this video is about, for me to help you guys. Now, this TargetLock that's hooked up to my microphone right now, this is from MEGALIVE 1, okay? This is the first one that I ever broke. And as you can see, let me take that off. As you can see, this angle here indicates that I hit that was impact. I actually hit a tree stump that I didn't see. It was too low in the water, and I wasn't going that fast. I mean, the trolling motor wasn't that high, but it just caught it at the right angle and broke this thing off. So I paid for it. I didn't even, give Humminbird a hard time about it, but this is MEGALIVE 1, and we're gonna get into what solution that I have for you guys, because I've already taken this thing off and everything. So I'm gonna tell you how I done all that for the hack that we're gonna discuss later in the video. Now, real quick, for those who are not familiar with how the TargetLock system works, here's the simple breakdown. TargetLock is its own independent pole system. It's not on the trolling motor shaft. It mounts besides your trolling motor. And the advantage of this is you can lock your MEGALIVE 2 on a brush pile, a stump, a fish, and even your trolling motor as it turns left and right. Or if it's in spot lock and starts spinning the boat, your MEGALIVE will still point in the exact same location that you locked it. But here's the catch. The MEGALIVE transducer is mounted directly to that TargetLock pole. So when the TargetLock shaft breaks, you don't only lose the pole, you lose your TargetLock and your MEGALIVE for that day. That's why this failure is such a big deal, especially during a tournament. Now, let me share with you guys something that I never posted publicly. And this happened early on this year on Richland Chambers Lake. So Danny and I, we were cruising across the lake on Richland Chambers, and it was a little rough that day. I mean, it wasn't too bad, but I mean, we did have a little bit of white capping going on, but as we were going across the lake, I had to slow down because I noticed that my MEGALIVE was hanging off the pole mount. And I took so long trying to secure that MEGALIVE because it was banging up against the trolling motor and also my graphs and all this other stuff. So I was tying it down. Danny calls me and says, "Hey man, where you at?" You know, and I told him that my MEGALIVE broke. I'll be there in a few minutes. So a few minutes later, I show up. Danny is already calling me saying, "Hey, guess what? My MEGALIVE is broke as well. It broke off the shaft." Unbelievable. So we talking the same day, the same run, the same failure, guys. So we winded up, you know, later that week putting these MEGALIVEs on our trolling motor shafts instead, just to get us through the tournament, because we knew Humminbird wasn't going to turn around these pole mounts very quick. So you could imagine how that phone call and what we had to send to Humminbird to prove that this actually happened. I mean, who's riding, you know, in two separate boats and the same incident happens? So you can imagine how those phone calls went that week. But they winded up replacing our pole mounts. I think Danny had more damage to his MEGALIVE 2 than I did. I think he got his transducer replaced. I may have gotten mine replaced. I'm not sure. I can't remember back then. But that's what happened. So this is the port that Humminbird really never responded to me on. Although I sent all these videos, I went an extra step to try to help them resolve this issue. Now, I'm gonna show you guys, this is from MEGALIVE 1. I showed you earlier in the video how that particular mount right there was broken due to me running over a stump. And you see the slanted part of that, okay? So we're gonna move this one out the way because this was my issue. I'm gonna show you where I think is Humminbird's issue, not our faults. Now, I want you to look closely at this situation, okay? I want you to look at this. This mounts right here, okay? It's the MEGALIVE, this is the TargetLock pole. Now, right there, I want you to look how thin that break is, this area right here. Look how thin that is, right? And I can't, this is heavy, okay? This is heavier than MEGALIVE 1 in my opinion, okay? This MEGALIVE 2, it has some bulk to it, okay? And this is the only thing holding it. Look at it. Look how thin that piece is, guys. You see how thin those, so on top of that, and I'm gonna show you in a second what makes this even worse, right? I want you to look at this angle. I want you to see how wide the transducer in this mount is coming out right here. This is called an adapter, okay? Humminbird sent this adapter out after the fact, after they found out that you couldn't release this thing in forward mode and different angles because this button was touching up against this shaft right here. So they have to extend it out so you can be able to adjust your target lock. If you can see that, you see that button? This button opens up this MEGALIVE and it also allows you to adjust it and put it in landscape mode. But you couldn't do that because you couldn't get to the button when it was installed right here, okay? So they had to extend it out. So now you have access to that button. Okay guys, so when Humminbird released the MEGALIVE 2 TargetLock adapter, this guy right here, it pushed that transducer out even further. And the adapter itself right here is roughly about 1/2 inch, which doesn't sound significant. However, mechanically, it increases the leverage, which increases stress directly on a weak point, okay? At that weak point that I demonstrated to you guys on the pole mount. So you have a heavier transducer, you have it pushed out further, you have it sitting on a hollow section of plastic. Again, that little weak area that I keep mentioning. So that's just a recipe for fatigue and failure. Okay, so I've removed MEGALIVE 2 from the broken TargetLock shaft because Humminbird, and big thanks to Humminbird for this, they actually sent my new TargetLock shaft in today free of charge. So I absolutely appreciate that and appreciate them supporting me. So going back to that shaft that's broken, as you can see, now that the MEGALIVE 2 is off of that, you can see how even the break is here, which points to fatigue, right? because the one that I showed you earlier was impact. You know, you had more of an angle because it ran into something, right? So this is fatigue. This is almost a straight line break. And another important thing to add is that the break that occurred on Richland Chambers looks just like this from my boat. The break that Danny had on Richland Chambers looks just like this break. And then, of course, this break is from recently on Lake Tyler. So this is definitely fatigue. This is not misuse. This is not impact. This is not debris. This is not a collision. This is none of that. So I'm going to show you guys. Let's put this one down. I'm going to show you what a brand new one looks like. And this is the brand new one that was sent to me today. Okay. And let's take a close look at this, because this is the area that I think Humminbird should correct going forward. Okay. So if they don't listen to me, you guys should hear me out right now. This area right here, these hollow areas. Okay. And let's look at the side view of that. Okay. Those are hollow areas like we discussed. It's hollow inside here. There's plenty room for you to fill in these gaps, these spaces on the side with more plastic. That's going to give you more support. That's going to make this area thicker. You know, it's going to be filled in here to have more support and likely not get so much fatigue and break on you, right? Because right now, I'll show you an example of, you know, comparing this to a seesaw. I mean, this is definitely a seesaw when you add this weight to the edge of this thing, and it's an imbalance, right? Also, you have enough room to fill in some more area of plastic here. I know you have to get the wire in through here, but you may have some opportunity to fill in these edges on the side. So that's what I think should be done. If you look at this from a side view, you have this pole that's, you know, this pole has pretty good weight to it, but you have that heavy MEGALIVE hanging off the end of this guy. And the more that boat bounces, the heavier that thing is, the more fatigued you're going to get right here in the center of this thing. So I can't make it much more clear than that. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. I hope Humminbird sees this, and I hope they can correct this issue. But that is what's going on. And I think with the type of tournament schedule that I have and running a TargetLock, and most guys put it on their trolling motors, I think what's happening is I'm exposing this a lot more because I'm using it a lot more, right? So I think that's what's happening here. Okay, guys, so if you made it this far in the video, I really, really do appreciate you checking the video out. Make sure you go and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button. Let me know that this content is helpful. And I know if you're still here, you're likely waiting on that hack that I mentioned early on in the video. So let's get into it. Okay, so for every MEGALIVE 2 box, you have 2 ways to install this guy, right? We talked about the trolling motor mount, and we also talked about installing this on the TargetLock system itself. If you install this on your TargetLock, that means more than likely this piece, which is the trolling motor mount piece, okay, for your transducer, is likely still in the box. So what I need you to do is, number one, take that out the box. And the first thing you do is just put it in your boat, okay? Because that's one backup solution that you could have that I didn't have when I was on Lake Tyler, right? I could have installed this thing that evening on my trolling motor. And that way I would have had MEGALIVE on my trolling motor. But I didn't think about that. I forgot all about it. And it's been in a box, okay? Number 2 is, you guys remember this pole mount from earlier in this video where I had my old TargetLock adapter piece sitting on the top of this guy, right? The mount piece was sitting on top of this, but I took it off. And in another video, I'm gonna show you exactly how I took that off and assembled this device here. So what I've done for a second backup option is I took my trolling motor mount and I installed this trolling motor mount to the TargetLock shaft, okay? To me, this option is more securer than this, right? To me, that's more secure, all right? that has the proper distribution of weight. It's not going to break this pole. It's in a place where it should be, not hanging off the end of this guy on a piece of plastic, right? So this is just like having it on your trolling motor. That is the hack. If you still want to use your TargetLock, then you can use this mount in this fashion. Now, what that means is that more than likely you had the mount already break on you, so you have an additional mount. Make sure you don't send that back to Humminbird. They did ask me for the mount that I had on Richland Chambers. They asked me and Danny to send both of ours in for some reason, but we sent them in. That's no problem. I had an additional mount from the one that I broke from my MEGALIVE, as I told you guys. But if they want that back, you might want to tell them, hey, I want to keep my pole just for this backup solution. Now, I actually haven't tested this on the water yet, but I'm sure it's going to work. So I'll keep you guys up to date. I hope this information was helpful. Like I say, stick around for part 2 of this video. I'm going to show you exactly how this is going to look assembled 100%. And until next time, tight lines.